reminders going out by email to a lot of people if they were unable to attend the event this evening. The Sunday before election at noon, it will be rebroadcast. Thank you. I'd like to introduce the moderator this evening. Dave Parsons is a Ridgeway native, 1974 graduate of Ridgeway Area High School. And he's also serving on the Ridgeway School Board. So the service has continued over his native son that he went to their school and now he's continued it through as a member of the school board. Education is very important to Dave. He's currently the Vice President of Sales at SMC Powder Metallurgy. And he's also a member of the Ridgeway Fire Department and is their treasurer. And previously, he moderated the debate between Matt Godler and his opponent. So with this, in just 1 minute, I'll be having him come up because there are quite a few people this evening that I'd like to recognize before the debate as opposed to afterward. And the county commissioners, June Sword, Janice Kemmer, and Daniel Freeberg. And I'd like to again go back and thank you for the work with the 814 issue. It was a lot of help with the PUC, and a big part coming from on your county letterhead. That carried weight with the Public Utility Commission. Thank you so much. Let's see, Robert Howard. He's the mayor of St. Mary's. We have Diane Bernardo, Du Bois City Councilwoman, Daryl Dutry, Sandy Township Supervisor, Tim Winters, Clearfield Borough Council, and last but not least, Matt Godler, State Representative. And with that, we'll turn over the program to Dave Parsons. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you very much, John, for the very kind words. Appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight as moderator. A couple of ground rules that were set forth by the committee. This meeting is not a debate. Each candidate will have an opportunity to make a 3-minute opening statement. When a question is presented to each candidate, they will have 3 minutes to respond, and each candidate will answer the same question. The order of answering will alternate between candidates. And when the questions are completed, each candidate may have a maximum of 3 minutes for a closing statement. And I would ask those in the crowd tonight, if you have cell phones, please either silence them or turn them off so not to interrupt the candidates while they were speaking. The questions were gathered by the committee. They were submitted from the general public. Some of the questions were very similar when they were submitted. So the committee put their heads together and consolidated some of them. I've got about 25 questions here that were submitted. They were outlined to me. I got them last night. They were outlined in 3 categories, red, green, and black, and they've asked me to ask all the red questions first, followed by the green questions, and then on to the black questions. So that's the ground rules here tonight. We've got a timekeeper over here, and a nice little bell will ring when the 3 minutes are up. Have we decided who will have the first opening statement?
Challenge.
Garrett?
Certainly.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to test out and see which one of these which one will stick. Can this work? Yes? Magic? Magic. Okay, I can tell you on this journey, I've not yet had a bell ring, so I can't wait to hear the ding-ding, and we're done. So thank you for that. To everyone here, thank you for putting this together. One of the nicest things about the campaign this year is that we've had the opportunity to do this so often in the middle of the district. I mean, we had one in Cool Spring, for goodness sakes, which was 12 miles from my home. A few days ago, we were a handful of miles from the Congressman's home, and this is smack dab in the middle of the 5th District. So thank you very, very much for doing this. For those of you who aren't familiar, my name is Karen Strano-Taylor. I'm running for Congress. I'm from Brookville, so Jefferson County, which is a little bit that way, and I think here most of the people are familiar with where I am. I am an attorney. I still practice law with my ex-husband, so we are those people that still work together every day. I'm also the president of my school board, but the work that has guided me on this journey and prompted me to do this is really the work that I do on behalf of foster children. So for the last almost 10 years, I've represented the children that come through dependency, right? The children that end up in foster care for one reason or another. And through that work, you get a bird's eye view on what poverty looks like in our 5th congressional district. So in my little hometown of Brookville, we have 168 families that go to the food bank every week. That's in a town of 3,800 people. So when I talk to folks about the fact that we're coming out of a recession, most of them look at me quizzically and say, really? I don't feel it, right? They talk to me about jobs, they talk to me about poverty, and they ask me what we can do about it. So this is what one person is going to do about it, right? And I know Congressman Thompson has been working hard on these issues. We just happen to have different views on how those issues can be tackled. So I'm feel fortunate that we get to have this conversation tonight and see the differences of vision that we both have, and look forward to making an informed choice on November 4th. The most important thing I would say, though, is that we vote. I'm curious by a raise of hands, how many folks in this room intend to vote on the 4th? Oh, that's the most glorious thing I've ever seen. That is just wonderful. I'm not surprised by giving up Friday to come and do this. I know there's football games, I know there's life going on, and the fact that we chose to come do this tonight is heartwarming, and thank you. If more rooms like this fill up with people who choose to step out and vote on November 4th, then we have a chance to really do some things, not only on the local levels, but the state levels and the national levels. So, without further ado, I don't have to have the dingy go. I think we're going to get into the questions this evening. So, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Well, good evening, everyone. What an exciting evening to live in a country where we come together because we have elections every year. We don't change, we don't make change in government, we don't change directions or policy based on chaos and violence. We come together under the rules of a constitutional republic. I want to thank the Tea Party. Remember this Tea Party, because I know how hard you work. I know what you're committed to, and I thank you for that. Thank you, John. Thank you, Dave. Thanks for all those who are here. Thank you, Karen, for the interest of seeking public office. Tonight is a great opportunity to be informed in order to make a decision for November 4th. I have to tell you, I have a lot of folks that I work with, that I serve with, who, once they're in, they refuse to do debates. They do zero. I don't think that's right, because this debate is not about me. This debate is not about Karen. This debate is about you. It's about you making an informed decision, putting away party labels, putting away whether you're Republican or Democrat, and truly listening to the candidates and making a decision on those issues. Now, I want to share with you just a little bit what has guided my record, guided my policies. Just a couple things, rules that I would share with you, rules or philosophies. Number one, I believe in freedom. I believe in freedom. I think our nation is defined by freedom and liberty and not control. And so listen tonight to see the difference between some of the positions, what represents greater freedom for you, and what represents greater control of your lives. I believe in defending the Constitution and the laws that exist, not in abusing them, not in ignoring them. And I believe that, quite frankly, you can't spend what you don't have versus more tax spending that just grows bigger government. Now, my priorities, number one priority is always jobs. Always has been, has guided my record, and I've got a great record on jobs. When you look at the number one industry in Pennsylvania, it's agriculture. The right farm bill. Farm bill is the jobs bill. 1 out of 7 Pennsylvanians owe their job directly or indirectly to agriculture. I helped to write the Workforce Opportunity Investment Act, which just became law, signed by the President of the United States in August. It actually changes and improves access to training for people who are underemployed and unemployed, people who are struggling, people who are living paycheck to paycheck, now have a pathway to get job training for a greater life, a better life for them, for their families, for our communities. The next one is fiscal responsibility. I believe in a balanced budget. I have voted twice for a balanced budget. I'm very proud that in a bipartisan way, including the President of the United States, Barack Obama, signing it, we had 2 years where we have together reduced federal spending. First time in 50 years. First time in 50 years. We actually took actions in a bipartisan way to make sure that 98% of Americans, everyone in this room, I'm sure, we're not going to see their taxes increase by the federal government. Those things are important. Third priority is we'll talk about with questions.
This comes under the classification of constitution. After the election, if you win and accept the privilege of representing we the people of the 5th Congressional District of Pennsylvania, you will be required by Article 6, Paragraph 3 to take an oath to defend, preserve, and uphold the U.S. Constitution. Can you give us examples of which powers belong to the federal government and which ones belong to the states according to the 10th Amendment?
You're taking me back to law school, and I'm happy to have a very good conversation about it. All the rights that have not been reserved to the federal government belong to the states. So unless they're clearly delineated, they belong to the states. And that's why we have very differing laws and practices in the states across the United States. For example, the way that we redistrict, right? Pennsylvania allows the party in power of our state legislature to draw the lines between redistricting. There are a handful of states that choose to do that by an independent commission. That's up to individual states to decide, right? That it's not a federal mandate that comes down from the government to tell states. We can agree or disagree on which method is better, right? But that is clearly a state issue. Education is a state issue. We have suggestions that come down to us from the federal government, and testing mandates, which no one loves. But curriculum is determined by our state. How we spend our money in education is determined by our state. And personally, I would argue that we haven't been doing a real bang-up job of that in the past handful of years, but I know there's a number of us that serve on our school boards, so we know what it looks like when the sausage is made. Voting is another measure that's determined by our state. So I mean, there's everything that is not reserved to the federal government remains in the hands of the states and should be. Interestingly, there was a debate going on in DC relatively recently where there was a bill proposed that would limit what the EPA can do, what the EPA can regulate when it came to waterways. There was an amendment that was put forth by one of Pennsylvania's congressmen that would allow states to reserve the right to still determine what was right for Pennsylvania, right? Congressman Thompson voted for the bill and against the amendment. So there are folks that believe that some things are reserved for the states, but not all, right? We had an amendment that would allow Pennsylvania to still determine what level of protection they wanted for their environment, and that amendment did not succeed. So there's a constant battle when you look at the federal government of that fight between states' rights and what's going on nationally. And I believe that we have a lot of really good folks governing our state. We have an election coming up on November 4th, so we're going to see where that shakes out. But we know what's on the ground, right? School boards know what's in their school district. They're more equipped to make good decisions about their school than 3 steps above. Same thing with state reps, same thing with state senate, and same thing with Congress. That's why we still have districts. So I'm a supporter, a big supporter of states' rights. We've seen it. Sometimes we win and sometimes we don't, right? If you look at the presidential election between Gore and Bush, right? That was a huge states' rights issue, and the Supreme Court ended up coming out a way opposite that a lot of states' rights advocates thought they would. So the question is constant, and it's constantly changing, but I believe we know best what's happening in our backyard, and we should be able to fight and continue to push to make sure that we maintain as much control as we can on the issues that affect us very personally, that might not affect California. Thank you.
Thank you. I will repeat the question each time. After the election, if you win and accept the privilege of representing we the people of the 5th Congressional District of Pennsylvania, you will be required by Article 6, Paragraph 3 to take an oath to defend, preserve, and uphold the U.S. Constitution. Can you give us examples of which powers belong to the federal government and which ones belong to the states according to the 10th Amendment?
Absolutely. You know, we are a nation that's rather unique from many around the world because we are a nation that was formed by states. The federal government did not form the states. The states formed the federal government. And we know that the rights we have, first of all, come from God. They're given to the citizens. The citizens gave up some of those rights to the state for purposes of efficiency and administration. And the states gave up just very few of those rights to the federal government. And that's the way the law has been, and it's being turned upside down. Let me touch on 2 areas. I'll revisit the 2 areas that the CARE had addressed. And one has to do with an agency called the Environmental Protection Agency. And specifically, an infringement on state rights when it comes to the waters of the U.S. If you're not familiar with the waters of the U.S., you need to be. It's the biggest power grab and land grab in the history of our nation. The Clean Water Act, which was a good piece of legislation when it was passed back in 1973, was set on a federalist model. It respected states' rights. It allowed the states to retain sovereignty over its water rights, and it took a few, in terms of navigable waters, to prevent the discharge of pollution, and that's where the scope of the Clean Water Act is supposed to be. Navigable waters. That means those that you can float people or commerce on. The EPA, without any judge telling them to, the EPA, without Congress passing legislation allowing them to, has now changed that to non-navigable waters. So, if you own property as an individual family or a business, and you happen to have one of those low areas after it rains like it did here a couple days ago, and that water lays there for a couple hours or a couple days, we call those mud clogs here. Because of that and what the EPA is doing, the EPA would now have jurisdiction over your property. For you to use your property, you would have to get a permit from the EPA. That's an infringement on private property rights. I happen to believe the private property rights, going back to the individual, next layer, the original layer of the citizen, that's what defines our democracy. One of the attributes that defines our democracy. Okay, let me flip to education. Common Core. Common Core, which the President of the United States, Barack Obama, has, I think, illegally imposed on our school districts because he attached money to it, an incentive. We're not allowed to dictate, as Carith said, we cannot dictate, I'm also a recovering school board member, we can't dictate curriculum from Washington. We're not allowed to do it. Common Core was set up by the National Governors Association, U.S. Chamber of Commerce, to be a best practice. The school districts could pick and choose what works for them, what doesn't work for them too. And if they didn't want to use it, they didn't have to. It's best practice. But what did President Obama do? He tied money to it. I'm actually support a piece of legislation. I voted for a bill that I helped write. It was voted out of the House that prevents the president from doing it.
Congressman, you'll take the first try at this next question.
Excellent.
This is under the topic of foreign affairs. Is our immigration system broken, or is there another reason those laws are not being enforced? And following up on that, what would you do to secure our borders?
The immigration system is broken from many perspectives. For those folks who want to come here, we're all from somewhere else. I mean, we are. Our heritage here. I mean, our heritage, our families, our ancestors originated from somewhere else, but they all came here legally. They came in here at the front door. And the fact is, the front door is all jammed up because of bureaucracy. I and my staff, we work with people every day that just would do nothing more, but they come here for the American dream, and they're willing to come in the front door. They want to do it legally, but it's taking them a lifetime to do that. That is wrong. You know, we need those people who want to come here legally, to contribute, to pay taxes, to be productive citizens. So the legal immigration system needs to be fixed. I'm actually a supporter of a bill that would do that. I'm a supporter of the bill that would provide more resources for the southern border. And I will say, I want it all fair, that in a bipartisan way, over the past 6 years, we have put more money into border security, a significant amount of money, and that was done by Republicans, Democrats, and President Obama. We have more border patrol than ever, but we don't have enough. And we also have crazy bureaucracy rules. You know that our border patrol, if there's an Indian reservation specifically that's on the southern border, we're not allowed, the administration does not allow us to place our border patrol on those lands. And so it's like a 4-lane highway coming out of Mexico. And they're not people from Mexico. Like we saw with these little children, 50,000 of them who are now in our country, coming on a company. They were coming from Central America. There's a number of bills that I was hoping we were going to get done this past year. But after the administration encouraged and turned a blind eye to these 50,000 kids coming across the border, it really hurt any efforts to work in a bipartisan way, at least at this point on immigration. I'm a co-sponsor of a bill. It's called our Ag Immigration Bill that would look at workforce for our farmers. We're a country that are blessed because we have affordable, high quality, and safe food. We have food security. But you know what? If our farmers can't find workforce,